In the late 19th century, a series of brutal axe murders took place in Austin, Texas, leaving the city in a state of terror. The killer, known as the Servant Girl Annihilator, preyed upon the city's residents, claiming the lives of 7 women and 1 black man. But what drove this individual to commit such heinous crimes, and was the killer ever brought to justice? The moniker Servant Girl Annihilator originated with the writer O. Henry, and the series of 8 axe murders were referred to by contemporary sources as the Servant Girl murders. The December 26, 1885, issue of the New York Times reported that the murders were committed by some cunning madman, who was insane on the subject of killing women. As the investigation unfolded, the people of Austin were left wondering if they would ever be able to feel safe again. What would be the next step in the investigation, and would it lead to the capture of the killer? The killer's methods were brutal and calculated, with all the victims being attacked indoors while asleep in their beds. 5 of the women were dragged, unconscious but still alive, and killed outdoors. 3 of the women were severely injured while outdoors, and all the victims were posed in a similar manner. The level of violence and brutality was unprecedented, leaving the authorities baffled and the public terrified. As the body count continued to rise, the people of Austin were on high alert, waiting for the next attack. Would the killer strike again, and if so, who would be the next victim? The series of murders ended with the killing of 2 white women, Eula Phillips, age 17, and Susan Hancock, who was attacked while sleeping in the bed of her 16-year-old daughter on the night of December 24, 1885. The community was shocked and outraged by the brutal killings, and the authorities were under pressure to catch the killer. But as the investigation continued, it became clear that the case would not be easy to solve. What would be the turning point in the investigation, and would it lead to the capture of the killer? Moses Hancock was accused of killing his wife, but was acquitted shortly afterwards. Only one of those arrested, James Phillips, husband of Eula Phillips, was convicted. However, James Phillips was found guilty of murdering his wife, but the conviction was later overturned, citing insufficient evidence. The lack of progress in the investigation was frustrating for the authorities and the public, and it seemed that the killer would never be brought to justice. But then, a breakthrough came, and the case took a surprising turn. What was the breakthrough, and how would it affect the investigation? The African American community and some practitioners of voodoo believed the killer was a white man who had magic powers that enabled him to become invisible. This theory was just one of many that emerged during the investigation, and it highlighted the desperation and fear that gripped the city. As the investigation continued, it became clear that the killer's identity and motivations may never be fully understood. But one thing was certain: the city of Austin would never forget the terror of the Servant Girl Annihilator. What would be the legacy of the Servant Girl Annihilator, and how would it impact the city of Austin? The series of murders stopped when additional police officers were hired, rewards were offered, and citizens formed a vigilance committee to patrol the streets at night. The city of Austin was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, but the memory of the Servant Girl Annihilator would live on. The case would go down in history as one of the most brutal and baffling serial killer cases in American history. But even today, the question remains: what really happened, and who was the Servant Girl Annihilator? Molly Smith, 25, was murdered the night of December 30, 1884, and Walter Spencer was seriously wounded on the same night. The attack on Molly Smith and Walter Spencer was just the beginning of a long and terrifying series of events that would grip the city of Austin. As the investigation into the murder of Molly Smith and the attack on Walter Spencer continued, it became clear that the killer was still on the loose, and the city was in a state of panic. What would be the next move for the authorities, and would they be able to catch the killer before it was too late? Clara Strand and Christine Martinson, 2 Swedish servant girls, were seriously wounded the night of March 19, 1885. The attack on Clara Strand and Christine Martinson was a brutal reminder that the killer was still on the loose, and the city of Austin was still in danger. As the investigation continued, it became clear that the killer was targeting servant girls, and the community was on high alert. What would be the next step in the investigation, and would it lead to the capture of the killer? Eliza Shelley was murdered the night of May 6, 1885, and Irene Cross was murdered by a man on the night of May 22, 1885. The murders of Eliza Shelley and Irene Cross were a devastating blow to the city of Austin, and the authorities were under pressure to catch the killer. But as the investigation continued, it became clear that the case was complex and challenging, and the killer may never be caught. What would be the outcome of the investigation, and would justice be served? The Servant Girl Annihilator case would go down in history as one of the most brutal and baffling serial killer cases in American history. The case would remain a mystery, and the killer's identity and motivations would never be fully understood. But one thing was certain: the city of Austin would never forget the terror of the Servant Girl Annihilator. The case would serve as a reminder of the darkness and brutality that existed in the world, and the importance of justice and accountability. What would be the legacy of the Servant Girl Annihilator, and how would it impact the city of Austin? In the end, the Servant Girl Annihilator case would remain a mystery, and the killer's identity and motivations would never be fully understood. But the case would serve as a reminder of the importance of justice and accountability, and the need for communities to come together to protect themselves from harm. The city of Austin would never forget the terror of the Servant Girl Annihilator, and the case would go down in history as one of the most brutal and baffling serial killer cases in American history. What would be the final legacy of the Servant Girl Annihilator, and how would it impact the city of Austin?